There it is. Oh yeah, okay, y'all are rolling in.
Hello, everyone.
Give me a thumbs up if your day is going just okay.
Just okay. At least okay.
Look at all these okay days. Colin, you're breaking the rules.
Yeah, give a clap. Correct. I get claps. All right, cool. Yeah, just me too.
All right.
Look at them. 12 participants.
Fantastic. So many. That's
Awesome.
half. That's pretty good for a Sunday. Okay. Welcome to our patent lecture. Hold on, I'm gonna share my screen. If you have any questions, you can feel free to drop them in the chat. We also will answer them like towards the end of the presentation, and we'll have like tons of time for questions, basically.
Yeah.
Look at this beautiful opening slide. Welcome to Patent Law 101 with Colin and Lauren.
Pew, pew,
I'm Lauren, that's Colin. Welcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dun dun.
Dun dun. So I guess to start off, just a little basic to make sure that we all kind of understand at a base level what's going on here. What is a patent? So a patent is essentially like legal documentation that you have the commercial right to an invention. For our purposes, that's things like protein sequences, their production, or their storage or usage. One good thing to know, especially for our purposes, is something found naturally is not patentable. You have to either alter or improve it because it's designed, patents are designed to be for inventions and not discoveries. When you're reading a patent, what tells you exactly what's patented are the claims.
Something's important to that too. A lot of companies, like that ruling was like very recent. It's like 2013 when they decided like stuff in nature is not patentable. And a lot of it was because like genomes were being sequenced and things like that. And people didn't want companies to own pretty much your body in a way. Because your body is like based off your genome. But it's really easy to get around this rule. Like, let's say you found it, like you had like something in your protein that was pretty much just like a leucine, and you replaced one of those with a leucine, you could maybe even get around with that. And it doesn't change much of anything to your protein. You just have leucine residues in there now, or leucine amino acids. And now all of a sudden you're altered and you're patentable. So companies have been very, they found easy workarounds to this. And so it's not a strong.
Slippery, slidey.
Yeah, the snakes. So yeah. And then, yeah, that's all I have to add there.
So looking more in detail at what a claim is, a claim is a single sentence that defines an invention being patented. And patents can have any number of claims. So this is the claim for Firefly Luciferase, which some members of my fire team have been looking into. The interesting thing about this one is I know on the previous slide we were like, you can't patent like natural sequences. Here's one of the catches. They literally did almost nothing to this natural sequence, but they changed just enough to patent it. They added what's called a Kozak sequence and then one amino acid substitution. So
really?
Yeah, we'll go into that in a second. So from Google Patents, you can look at the claims. This one has essentially just one that's relevant to us. And it says a luciferase comprising of amino acid sequence is number 30. So, what is that? What is sequence ID number 30? When you command F through that patent for sequence ID number 30, it takes you to essentially these sentences, which defines sequence ID number 30 as essentially sequence ID number 1 with a Kozak sequence and a mutation. So if you look further into the patent, into Kozak sequences, it basically, this patent defines that as any Kozak sequence. There's like kind of a few that you could use, and this one says like any Kozak sequence introduced falls under this patent. And then another important thing to note for this one is that it's an and not an or clause. So the patented one has to have a Kozak sequence and this mutation instead of like or this mutation. So that makes it easier to get around, actually.
Mhm.
And then sequence ID number 1 is explicitly defined in the patent, like A, G, W, V, like whatever. Anything to add, Colin?
Yeah, just if you're confused with like Kozak sequences, it's just like a little thing they add on the front to help like with translation.
Yeah, if you command F Kozak sequence or like pretty much anything in the patent, it'll like pull up its definition basically as well. So things that aren't clearly defined at one section in the patent, just command F and you'll probably be able to find them somewhere else.
Yeah. Cool. All right, and so there are certain claims. So for the purposes of our project, you don't, like we talked about in the first slide, you're not just claiming a sequence. Some people will claim other things. I pulled up an example from Cas. I think this is Cas9, yeah. Type 2 Cas9 protein, where they're not just claiming the sequence for Cas9, they're claiming the method for it. We kind of want you guys, when you're looking for things to avoid, if you see that a protein's claimed for its methods, its products, or homology, and I'll talk about that in a second, avoid it. It's going to be it would make it kind of meaningless to work around it. For example, right, even though we changed like Cas9 a little bit, if we still had a version of Cas9, we couldn't legally do anything with it or allow other people to do things with it if the methods are claimed, because the methods are claimed, right? And so a method claim is just kind of as it sounds, right? What are you doing with the protein? And people can claim that depending on how strong that is or how meaningful the protein is to it, or how good your lawyer is or how much you're paying. You can also have product claims. What are the proteins producing? You can claim that. And then there's homology claims. And homology claims kind of go with, sometimes people won't just do the protein by itself. And so we kind of want y'all to look at proteins by themselves, because you can have like proteins mixed with nucleic acids and that kind of gets confusing. Or you can have proteins interacting with proteins and that can get confusing. Or you can have protein structures when they fold and things like that, which can get kind of confusing. And those are all homology claims, kind of how those proteins interact, not just as a sequence, but with maybe other things around them, with nucleic acids or other proteins. So if you see any claims like that, just know it's going to be like, it may be a little meaningless to alter that protein or make that protein for use, because they're not claiming the protein. They don't really care all that much about it. They want the other things that the protein will actually do. So it's like, if using GFP in a lab, they claim that, then like that FU-GFP thing becomes meaningless. But they didn't do that. They just claimed the sequence of GFP. So yeah.
So a little bit about finding patents. There's a few ways to do it. The kind of like quick and dirty way would be to look it up through Google Patents. Just search Google Patents and then put in whatever you're looking for, whatever protein, and then it'll pull up the relevant patents. It's usually pretty accurate and it has some good information on it. Another way to do it is kind of with BLAST, but it has a preliminary step. So the first thing that I'd recommend doing is going to Uniprot and then putting in like the name of whatever you're looking for. It will pull up a whole bunch of entries and you want to find like the one that is relevant to you. And then you click on it. You scroll down until you see sequence, and then you'll see this FASTA right here. You click on that and it'll pull up essentially this, which you copy paste into BLAST, switch the database to patented protein sequences. That's key. And then you just blast it. Colin will do a demonstration of this after we finish the slides presentation. When your results come up in BLAST, you kind of get something like this, and the page goes on and on. It's kind of intimidating. So let's look at how you would interpret this. This is for Cas12a, I believe. And the first thing that you'd want to take note of is that percent, is that query cover. And so what a query cover is it means essentially the percent of what you searched that overlaps with whatever sequence result came up. So that would be, like you see these ones, 100% of what I searched can be found in this referenced sequence, versus this one has like only 55% of what I searched comes up in like this referenced sequence. Then you want to look at the percent identity column. Percent identity tells you the percentage of amino acids or nucleic acids, depending on what you're looking at, that are the same between like the query and whatever you're looking at. So you can see that for this one, my sequence exactly matches this one, and it, or like 100% of my sequence can be found in this one, and it's an exact match. So that's a pretty strong one, versus this one, only 55% of my sequence can be found in this reference sequence, but that 55% matches 100%. Does that make sense? 2 percentages, a little bit confusing, but that's okay. And then the last thing you might want to take note of is this looks like a lot of really relevant patents, right? But if you stop and look, a lot of these are actually the same. Like these are the same patent, these are the same patent, these are the same. So it's not, these aren't all individual patents. So there's not as many as you might initially think. So lastly, some other important things that you might want to check when you're looking at a patent. This is from Google Patents. You want to see, is it some kind of like A number or B number? If it's an A, then it's a patent application, and a B means it's been granted. So this one for Firefly Luciferase has been granted because it's a B2. You also want to check what country it's valid in. Google Patents has this nice little section that's like worldwide applications, and this one is valid in the US. So it's not a worldwide patent, doesn't look like. And then you want to see if it's expired. Most patents expire after like 20 years. Google Patents gives you this nice anticipated expiration date as well. And lastly, we just want to remind you that if you do not understand what a patent is claiming, or if you have any questions about what's going on in a patent, then ask for help from your team and your mentors. That's what we're here for. We want to be able to help you, and you don't have to like try and figure it out all on your own.
Yeah, patents can be extremely long, confusing, and a lot of
very scientific language. Like
scientific mixed with like law lingo, which makes it kind of difficult to understand what the hell is happening. So, I mean, they're kind of hard to understand, especially for even us. So it's good to work together on that. So let me share my screen, and we'll kind of go through an example of finding a patent. So we'll start here. So there's a good website, and I think this is linked in all y'all like your stuff, where you have a, it's called a patent data resource, and this is the website's, I guess, EMBLEBI, which is just like a European data bank. And I think you have this in whatever Google Doc was sent to you. And so let's look at this. So you can see that they have resources from 4 different countries. You have one from Europe, Japan, Korea, and US. And don't worry about like too much about what these means. If you need to choose one, obviously choose United States because that's where we are. But these are just the offices. So these are just a data bank. So it'll pull, any search you send will pull from these 4 countries, which are 1 continent and 3 countries, which for the most part should cover all that we're doing. I mean, maybe not, but should be good. And it's only one that kind of can pull from. So if you want more information about like FASTA formats and things like that, you can get there. But what we're worried about is trying to use the search tools. So similarity and homology search tools. So I'm gonna start quizzing y'all, which should be fun. So if I want to find the FASTA information, where should I go? I need FASTA information, or I need information about my protein. Where should I go?
Drop it in the chat.
Yeah. Uniprot. Yeah, Uniprot. Yep, exactly. So yeah, so just click that link, right? I'll show you that again, just so you guys, I kind of did it fast. So all to Clusomeg, I know you guys will use BLAST, you'll probably use BLAST protein. And I'll talk about the differences between those in a second. A couple protein data banks, but we want UniProt. And so UniProt, as we talked about earlier, is just a huge data bank with all proteins in it. Pretty much you can find most any protein, patented or not, in here. So someone give me a protein to look up. Juice. Oh, there we go. We got juice. We got I don't know. I don't know what this is. This is serine protease inhibitor casol something.
Wait. Can we take a minute just to acknowledge the fact that the scientific name for a rat is Rattus?
I didn't know. Rattus norvegicus. I like that. I like mouse though. Musculus. Kind of cute. All right. So we got this rat protein from juice. You know, it's funny that Chuck E. Cheese recommended we look up juice and we found a rat protein. It all works together. Cool. All right. So now I need to find something. So you're going to get like UniProt has a lot of good information and kind of too much for like what we need right now. So all we want is the FASTA file. So I'm looking for it. If I miss it, just let me know because I haven't seen it yet. Oh, here it is. So the FASTA file is pretty much just a text file. So if you opened up your, Word documents, it's pretty much like that, but it's specific for this. And so all it has in this FASTA file, it's gonna have some information on top about your protein, but then it's just gonna have this sequence here. And this is your primary sequence for your protein. So here are all your residues in order from 10 to like 78. So, I mean, you could just copy this or download the FASTA, right here, right? And so you can go whoop, and just Command C, just copy it. So I'll just show you, right?
It's so short. You're gonna get so many blast hits.
Yeah, probably and so why would I get so many blast hits? Because it's so short that a lot of other things are gonna have this kind of sequence in it. So let's keep going. So now I'm just gonna go back to my little data bank here, and I'm gonna use blast protein. So blast nucleotide you can also use, but most likely you're gonna use blast protein because most people patent proteins instead of nucleotide sequences, because if you patent the protein, you don't really have to worry about
protein is the amino acid sequences, nucleotides is the nucleic acid sequences.
Yeah, so this would be like your RNA, DNA. This would be your protein. All right, and so you can kind of come here and do the same thing. I think, is this the one I want? We'll see. And so you can put your sequence here, right?
There's a section that says patents.
Oh, right here. Yeah, cool. Oh, yeah. And we can do boop, boop, and click all of them. Should I do these? I don't know what these are. I'll leave them blank because I don't know what they are. Say your parameters. Plus P works because we want the proteins. Yeah, and I think that should be good. So we can submit. Yeah. So it's running for a second. You can also just load up blast and kind of do it there too. Do. So are any of those steps confusing?
Yeah, you can drop any questions you have in the chat at any point.
Oh, cool. I think I kind of got a little too much. I got other things too, but here we have a US patent office as like our first result. You can see it has 100% identity, has 100% positive hits and things like that. So length 79. So yeah, we got something here. So you can open this up. Oh, that didn't work. Did it work? I don't know. This is a weird file.
It should. So scroll down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see where it says patent US?
Oh yeah. I can just look this up.
That looks like a link, the US thing.
No, that's okay. Bonk. It's fine. We can try to search this up in Google Patents or something like that. But now we kind of find what we wanted, so which is nice. Yeah,
on like regular blast, not through the site that Colin's using. It'll be a link there.
Yeah. And so it looks like we found it. Yeah, this is the same thing. And the way I know that is because it's for liver fibrotic injury. So if you want to find it, you can just search that up too, right there, and it should pull it up. So we can look at it. Oh, what's the difference between this and the other websites that you showed, like the NC? So NCBI blast is like, so what this is just kind of like a source let me go all the way back, where you can get all these tools in like one location, and it services you all these tools from this one website. So it makes your job life easier because you can just go from one central location to find everything here. But I mean, you could also just load, like if I do, like, I can load Uniprot from my computer here, and then also load BLAST here, you know, and keep going, right? But I don't really want to worry about that because it can just serve BLAST here and get Uniprot here. It just makes your life easier, so that's why I showed you this. But you don't have to do this necessarily. But
I do it.
This is
multiple window way.
Yeah, and I can send you guys a link if you guys want to look this up in the chat. But you should have this on the document that we shared with you. Yeah, and there's other things here too. Like later when you guys will do cluster omega, you can also find it here. And there's some other protein databanks. So yeah, and some literature databanks, things like that. So a lot of cool things from this one website, not just used for this. Okay, and so yeah, so we can look at this website. We can tell it's like, yeah, some worldwide applications, so on and so forth. And then you'd use those same things, you know, we talked about. So again, this is a method claim, so maybe not the best, right? But yeah, so maybe if this protein's only used to detect like liver fibrosis, we may not be able to do much with it. But yeah, it's kind of like a step-by-step way of finding this thing and doing all that work. But the hard part probably is reading this. But yeah, like we said, you can work together on that. Cool.
All right, we will now open it up to questions.
Mm-hmm. Question time.
Bobby Schmurda, how did you get in here?
Yeah, I thought, are you out? Are you out of jail, man? Bobby Schmurda. I like how it's spelled with a SCH. Is that how you spell his name? No, it's just that, yeah. Like he's avoiding the patent to Bobby Schmurda by adding the C. Schmurda.
Any questions?
Any questions? It's pretty quick. What is FASTA? Great question. Do you want me to answer or you want
it? I feel like you have the Uniprot immediately pulled up, so,
yeah, so let me share my screen.
Demonstrate.
Yeah. FAFSA. No, it's something different than your FAFSA. FASTA, I mean, we can look up like a FASTA here. I don't know what exactly the thing means, but it's it's just a long format. But let me show you. So juice. We can look up juice. We can get a rat protein. So FASTA is it's like a text document, but for bioinformatic data. And so the FASTA, the thing that's going to be on it, it's just this. So this is your FASTA file. And so in the file, you're going to have the name of the protein and some other information about it. And maybe you can load this file into like Agene or something, and based on these other flags and things like that, you change what.
Yeah. For cluster omega, you'll have to grab that first line as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly, right. So that first line's there's a lot of bioinformatic information there. You're going to plug into software. And so it knows what the hell to do with this sequence here. But the important thing for right now, for just looking at up in BLAST, is this sequence. And these letters, you may look at it and be like, yo, is that Latin? I've never spoke Latin. But no, what it is it's your primary sequence. So it's all your amino acids in order. From here's your beginning and here's your end. So yeah, and so then you can just copy and paste that. But yeah, so depending on what you're doing, you may want to download the entire file or copy and paste the entire file. But for us, we just want this. For looking up in BLAST, you just need this sequence here. But it will not give you government money like the FAFSA will. So that's it. But yeah, great question. Any other questions?
Good question. The answer is yes, you should consider patent applications too, because there's that chance, that like likely chance that they get approved. the just differences is that like one which is granted like is definitely in effect, like do not infringe upon it, and like some patent applications might be denied is the only difference pretty much.
Can I speak to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nowadays, it's not like, even if you were to like compete with a patent, it's first to apply that would get the patent over. Let's say like yours went through faster for some reason, but they applied a year earlier. The application is still kind of seen as like pretty much a granted patent in some way, but it's just not official yet. So like if the application is still like in, like that's pretty like good, right? And most likely, again, like Lauren said, it's going to get granted. It's just approved, kind of. Sorry.
Yeah, it just means that it went into like illegal. Do they go to courts? Like I guess for lack of my legal knowledge, they go to court. And like essentially, okay, great, patent office. A patent office looks at it and says, yes, this is valid. Then it takes effect. It's sort of like you apply to a school and then you like get accepted. So one is the application, and afterwards it's like accepted. This is valid. This is going into effect. You know.
And you're gonna have to do like a patent lasts for like 20 to 25 years, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
Depending on what kind of patent it is. And so like once it's kind of in, or depending on some of the proteins you look up, you may have a protein that was patented like 19 years ago. It may not be super like worthwhile to go after that protein then, because like the patent doesn't matter anymore, pretty much at this point. And that's when you'll get like, for like example, you get like drugs, right? And you'll have like aspirin can exist like over the counter, some like generic brand aspirin, because that patent's no longer in effect. And so you're not infringing any laws.
Yeah.
I don't know. Interested.
Yeah. The interesting thing about like proteins and stuff is a lot of what you'll be looking into are kind of recent. A lot of like Cas proteins obviously would be pretty recent patents as well, or like still even in the process of like being patented. So I wouldn't call it like hugely likely that you'll find like expired patents, but there's definitely like they exist out there and there's a chance.
Michelle had a great question too. Is a patent on a protein assay the same as a method patent? So an example is you could like patent the components of the assay if it's novel and like new art, or it's just like IP or ideas or something like that. So you can do both, but they'll specify that in the claims. But you could also patent what you would do with that assay. So like if it's an assay for a very specific, like you have to be more specific. You can't just probably have, you could patent the components of the assay, but if you're using the assay to specifically test for COVID, then you'd have to like, that'd be a specific claim on a method. But you could then also claim the proteins that are novel that do that, if that makes sense. So it's a great question. If a patent is ignored, you can ignore it.
Yes. Thanks, Ratatouille.
Yeah.
What was the other thing? Someone keep talking while I find this.
Patents are like no fun. I'm a big IP theft guy. So I don't know if you feel me. You know who a Ratatouille is? That's what I knew who Ratatouille was. It's Ayush. That's funny. How are you, Ayush? Ayush is LL Cool J now. Ayush is also one of the mentors for this program. If you don't have him, he's part of the Air Tribe or Air Nomads. Yeah, great. These are awesome questions. Patents are really hard, and patent law is like extremely confusing. So I want to reiterate that if you do struggle with it, because I struggle with it, and all your mentors struggle with understanding what the hell's going on because we don't go to law school, just talk to us, and we'll probably even ask you like just like research together how to figure it out, which is great. That's great experience, because depending on what you do with your, like, let's say you continue to do academia or you even go into industry. In industry, you'll probably have departments checking this for you, so you won't have to worry. But Mark's his name, right? That did FUGFP.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great example of like, he was trying to do something just kind of as a research idea, and he almost got in trouble with the law. And so, and like, you'll have departments that if you work at an institution, I'll check this for you, but like it's not like industry. They don't make, may not make money. So what is homology claim? Great question. So I kind of talked about that earlier. Homology claim is kind of like maybe an interaction with the protein. So more than just the sequence, but on top of that. So you may claim like, well, this protein interacts with another protein. and you can claim that. This protein interacts with nucleotides, like it's an RNA, it's like a ribozyme. You can claim that. Yeah. And so it's kind of like that claim there, or the way the protein folds, you can claim that if it's a unique way of folding it. So those are like more than just the sequence claims, which makes it, I think, kind of tricky in order to get around that. Because if you don't, oh yeah, sorry, thank you for getting rid of my screen. If you don't do that, then or if they do claim homology, then it's not just your sequence. So if you change the sequence, you don't change much if it still folds the same way. So yeah, so it's more of like a structural interaction thing.
Yeah, a lot of I think the Cas proteins would be homology claims because a lot of them claim like the way that they interact with nucleic acids.
Exactly. And homology in general, Mr. Jeff Sessions, honored to be in your presence. Oh, so esteemed, sir. Is they just it's like a structural thing. It's like the way things fold and structure the same. So they're saying like, hey, this is the same structure or the same interaction, so it's a homology claim. Great question. That one's very confusing. Homology claims like make no sense when I read them. I have no clue what they're talking about. It's like, yeah, a method claim. Great question. A method claim is a claim on like what. So when I was giving the example with protein assays, that's a method claim. So what are you doing with the assay? What are you doing with the protein? Maybe what are you doing with the Cas? And those are usually pretty specific. But let's say we found a protein like that one juice protein or that rat, I forget what it was doing, the rat protein, which it's only really useful in like helping treat liver fibrosis. So you claim the method of using it in liver fibrosis. Then yeah, that's a method claim. But then why is that not useful to us? Because like even if you evolved a new juice rat protein, if it's only useful in that one instance, that's already claimed. And so having a free use, one of those doesn't do anything new.
Yeah, sometimes you can patent, like if you find a natural protein, but you create a new way to use it, then a method claim would be patenting that way that you are using it.
Exactly. That's a great way of putting it. Thanks. Great question. Yeah. A lot of weird claims. Lawyers are smart. They know what they're doing.
Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney.
What if he was an IP lawyer?
Jeff Sessions, explain yourself.
Yeah, why don't you join?
Oh, no, he's gone. It's Jebediah now.
Yeah, Jebediah, why don't you join the call? Wait, you can
He likes being incognito.
Yeah, I know he does. What is a product claim? So whatever like product like produces. So like it's kind of like an extension of a method claim.
Yeah. I don't think this one is patented, but an example would be you have an enzyme that produces isoamyl acetate, which is the banana smell. Like you could potentially patent like the isoamyl acetate kind of.
Yeah. And you could like more you could patent that like novel way of doing that isoamyl acetate, but also like then patent like you can patent the whole structure. You can patent your enzyme, the method, and the end product of that method. So it's like a 3 ways of doing it. So you could have a homology, then a
insulin patents have a lot of product claims, I think.
Yeah, probably. Like, yeah. I mean, any drug is going to, right? Like if you patent that method, then your drug's gonna go crazy. Great question. Are you just seriously just ignoring us? Joss? If you haven't met Ayush is co-president. Sorry.
Ayo. So is your question how do we avoid or how come we avoid these things?
Yeah. Do you want me? I can answer that. Or you want to?
I can start and then you can. Yeah. Oh, we love Zoom. So essentially, we want to avoid them because for this project, what we want to do is we want to like change sequences basically to make a free use thing. If a patent is, claiming a method, then we don't really have a way to work with you guys to create a different method without like in lab like work on that. There's no really like computational basis that we can brainstorm that would like successfully work to get around that patent. So it's easiest for this project for you to find something that's a sequence claim so that we can just like kind of play around like altering that sequence versus trying to come up with like a new method to like secrete insulin from bacillus or something.
Yeah, the sequence claim essentially is like easier.
Yeah, it's the easiest to bypass.
And also the one that's probably less like people care less about, because we don't want to get in a lawsuit. That'd be bad. Yeah, great questions. Thank you so much. Jeff, the guy who's like we're talking to is Ayush. He's co-president with Lauren for BIOME.
Let's go.
Colin
is our lab manager as well.
I'm lab manager. Me and Alan.
I'm the only one here on the iGEM team.
It's true.
What's going on?
So yeah. So we'll be around for a little bit longer if you guys have any more questions. What if I can't find a protein that fits those criteria? That's a great question, Ayush. What you can do is like, I mean, you can continue looking, right? There's like infinite proteins, kind of, not infinite, but reasonably infinite. So continue looking. I mean, it can be hard. Like you may run, like let's say you're really into Cas proteins. The hard thing is so is everyone, right? And so a lot of people are like pretty like intense about Cas proteins. And so it may be hard to find one that is like actually fits really well. But you know, due diligence and hard work will maybe find you a different one, or be open to thinking about different styles of proteins, like you know, optic or like chromoproteins and things like that.
Yeah, when in doubt, look at the fluorescent proteins because those usually fall in this category.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they're also a great thing is they have a decent impact because people use fluorescent proteins for all different things. You can't just use GFP. You got to use your whatever. Luciferase is a fluorescent protein. Luciferase is a cool protein. That's like top 5 proteins of all time.
Is it toxic to cells or like some cells?
Probably. I don't know all that much.
Bink, but can you attest to this?
Yeah, Bink, what do you know about luciferase? Another cool protein you guys can look up, but you can't patent it. Yummy. Ayush has been eating fireflies. Titan's a cool protein. Titan, you can like, it's huge. It's like your entire muscle is Titan. So yeah, that's pretty fun.
Actin and myosin.
Actin, myosin. No, they get overhyped. I'm not a big actin, myosin kind of guy.
Don't like your Z and M lines.
Don't. I'm gonna have a breakdown. Great. Oh, can be cytotoxic, but normally with standard expression levels, they can be used as reporters pretty well. Yeah. They're big. If you watch CNN, a lot of times the people behind the desk, they are luciferase. So great job, Ayush. Because they're reporters.
Yeah.
I'm here all week, everyone. Thank you.
But
yeah. If you guys have any like maybe specific questions too, because we're here for like 20 more minutes. Like if you pull up a patent that you're confused about, we can also answer that. We can talk to you. But I don't know if that's the right thing.
Yeah, volunteering patents.
Yeah. If not, then we're chilling.
Yeah. Keep in mind, like we also are just a couple of teenage bioengineers.
I'm 20.
Well, we have Ayush and me, so we outnumber you. Just a couple of teenage bioengineers and Colin, who also are like not patent law experts. So at some point, we hope that towards the end of this project, we'll actually reach out to like some people who are patent law experts and like can verify that what we're doing is, you know, not illegal.
Yeah, exactly.
When we finally like get some sequences to potentially publish.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. I usually linked a patent for us. It's gonna be like some. I don't know why'd you link this patent? It's a computer systems patent.
Ayush is just here to cause chaos.
Seriously. Yeah. That's a great question. So yeah, whenever you're dealing with like a protein data bank, you can type in like, let me share my screen. And then I'll like talk to you. Give me one second, I'll pull up your chat so I can answer your question and things like that. Yeah. So let's go to Uniprot. And sometimes those things may work, but not always the best, right? For like things like this, right? Like if I typed in, let's see what pops up. Yeah, you can get like GFP and things like that. And so you can see a bunch of here, right? And they'll give you a bunch of like random fluorescent proteins. But if you come down here, I mean, you're gonna have like 5,000 search results, which isn't bad necessarily, but you can see like, you're gonna get like the really popular ones right at the top, which could be good, right? You're gonna get a lot of GFPs and things like that, but from different species. So, I mean, you can try that. That is a method. You could look it up somewhere else, like just on Google, be like, hey, like, pull up Google Scholar and look at fluorescent proteins, like try to read some papers and see what people use and their methods and things like that. Like when they try to do protein tagging, which is just, attaching this protein onto whatever molecule so they can see if it's in there or not. And then once you find that protein, be like more specific with it. So like let's say you use mCherry for DNA or something like that. And so then you can like kind of find it. I don't know if that popped up or not, but yeah. Or, you can be more specific, like GFP, and you be, oh yeah, this is it, right? And that's another way to do it. So that's one way, right? So you can use Uniprot to kind of search up proteins, or just Google searches and try to read papers is a good way to find proteins that are used. So if you want like fluorescent proteins, just papers with fluorescent proteins, and there's a lot of them. But yeah, just search like the umbrella for your protein. I hope that answers your question. It can be confusing. I think like biology in general, or any like academia in general, is hard to parse through. So whenever you're like doing those things, you may like be overwhelmed with a bunch of extra information you do not care about. You open a patent, there's so much there. You open a paper, there's so much there. You've never heard like 100 of these words out of 105 of them. And that's okay. Like, we're there too with you. Like you can't know everything. You just can't.
Yeah.
A
lot of if there's certain things in a patent that you might be confused about, try Command Fing them. And so a lot of times they'll be defined in the patent, like something like that Kozak sequence that we mentioned. If you Command F, it'll like define for you in the patent, what is a Kozak sequence? What are we referring to?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so like when you're searching for these patents or proteins or whatever, don't get discouraged by, what's going on. Just take it slow, because it's not going to be like reading a novel. It's not going to be like reading even a textbook. Like research papers are hard to read. They're very hard. They're like probably the hardest reading you'll ever do. So take it slow, read it over again, make sure you kind of understand what's going on, and like research the terms, and you'll learn a ton. That's how I learned, and that's how Lauren learned probably. And then you do them, things like that. So, yep. And when you go to college, that's how you'll learn too.
Yep.
I promise. And it can be boring.
And then you get to a point where you enjoy it, and then you do it for fun, and then you're like, what have I done with my life?
Remind me to use proteins, and you stick it to the man. Huzzah! Oh. Yeah. You want to see my friend? There we go. There we go. There's my friend. Cool. Great questions.
Any more questions? I feel like the hardest part for me was interpreting and like finding relevant patents through BLAST and like seeing which ones are actually relevant. So I hope that the like query percent and percent identity helps clarify that a little bit. But if people have further questions, please ask.
Give me 1 second. hate Ayush so much. That was my mother. She's a lovely woman. I'm very blessed to have her in my life.
Oh.
This quarantine's been hard on us all. Okay, I'm not making the bread I used to make.
Yeah, we're making
different
different bread now. GMO bread.
Aren't you like 20 something? Aren't you like? Ayush is like 14, isn't he?
Ayush is like so baby.
Yeah, he's like 10 years old. No, like no joke. The other day he came up to me. He's like, Colin, I have this like really cool show I want you to watch. And I was like, what is it? Was it? And I turn over. This is like when we're back on campus, and he's playing the Wiggles. I'm like, why are you watching the Wiggles? Like, he's like very, very genuinely into it. So that's Ayush, everyone.
Hold on. This is a question for Colin and Ayush, because to my understanding, in UniProt, does it always give you amino acid sequences, or does it sometimes give you nucleic? Okay. And then FASTA has this interesting thing though, where I believe for nucleic acid sequences, they're often like listed not as like A, T, A, G, A, C, C, like G, but they can be also listed with like W's and V's, and then you have to like understand the format of it. It's a little confusing.
Mm-hmm. I can actually show you. Do you want me to show them how to get both?
Sure.
Cool. Yeah, this just be like something I guess we can do here. So I don't know what I'm looking up right now.
Do Cas12a.
Cas12a, cool. Do I want to do this one? Yeah, CRISPR. Yeah, okay, that's fine. A lot of information. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just scroll. So here's your FASTA. So yeah, this would be your. I mean, this is just going to be your amino acid sequence. But if you keep scrolling past that, you can get the Genome DNA Translation, and so you can get it like here. This should pull it up. And you can download the FASTA here, right? And the FASTA would then, or view it, I guess. And this would be your DNA. And you can tell it's DNA because that's T's. Look at this file, huh?
Yeah. But sometimes, however, there is a FASTA format for nucleic acid sequences that is like.
Yeah, that is really messy.
It's, yeah, and hard to differentiate from amino acids.
And like the reason why they have those things, like again, you're gonna feed these FASTA information. Oh, word. Oh, the reason why you're gonna do that is you're not gonna use these, right? You're gonna feed them into some software that knows how to parse the FASTA file.
At reporting Colin for cyberbullying, I believe yes, it is used with alignment, or at least that's been my experience.
Yeah. Also, it's not. I mean, I was just sharing a fond memory of us together in your dorm room, so I don't know. No cyberbullying goes on here. That was a true story, by the way. Like I was not joking.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. So if you guys have any questions that you did not want recorded, you'll be able to ask those.
Yeah.